Hey guys, this is Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. Welcome. This is going to be one of the most in-depth, most researched, most tested reviews we've ever done. And that's saying a lot because we review a lot of gym equipment. If you have a home gym or you have any orientation towards fitness equipment, you will really like us. So if this is your first time here, we'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. We are doing treadmills specifically because there are so many of them, because it's such a complex category, and because they are quite possibly the most popular piece of gym equipment in the world. We have researched, tested, and reviewed well over 100 different models of treadmill. Now, we've tested these treadmills in various ways. Some we just run on, some we sprint on, some we throw weird things on. Also, to test the durability and longevity of these, we'll just leave them running. And our editorial team has written literally the best treadmills article on the internet. Trust me, I've gone through them, I've seen the competitors, and we are by far the best. If you'd like to see all of our picks, all of the ones that we've tested and compared, why we've picked them, what to look for in treadmill, and much, much more, click the link below the like button and you can read all about that.
Rolling.
Rolling.
Okay, go.
Now, I'm not gonna be able to run through every treadmill that's on the market that we tested, that we reviewed, researched, all of that today because there's too many. I'm gonna run through my top picks. So if there's any specifically that you would like to see individual reviews on, more content on, or ask, Coop, why didn't you include this in the review? Let us know in the comments below. And then lastly, just for transparency's sake, you won't see many reviewers do this, but I think it's important to do. And that is, we wanna let you know that a lot of these options, not all of them, but many of them were sent to us by the companies for review. We do not give positive reviews simply because a company has sent it to us. I'm gonna give you my honest opinions on these products after testing and reviewing them. Also, if you would like to support us, click the links below the like button for any of the products. We have all of them down there. That supports us. The companies will pay us a small commission, but it doesn't change what we say. Because this is gonna be a longer video, there's gonna be different sections we've got here. If you'd like to check out any of the sections, you just wanna breeze through them, or say you're watching this for a third or fourth time, then you can check out the chapter markers down below. All right, so I wanna give some brief overview of what to look for in treadmills first. Treadmills have been around a long time, and they were originally used as a torture device for people that were in prison. Kind of makes sense, you make people walk on a treadmill. The reason they have the name mill, they would turn a mill that would turn grain into flour. Although treadmills were in the past used as a torture device, there's over 50 million Americans every year that are using treadmills in gyms, in their homes, and that's why we want to provide an honest, in-depth take on treadmills. Here's the other reality. These products can be very complex, and the companies know that, and so it's a very nuanced product category. It's very hard to disseminate through all of them, which is why I think it's so important to provide an honest, detailed review after testing, bringing them in-house, and reviewing the different options. And so I'm really excited because I haven't seen any content online that is at the standard that we provide for people. And so that's why we're bringing this one. This video is brought to you by Future. Future is an online training program that allows you to have one-on-one interaction with a real life coach and will program as many workouts as you'd like. Now, although they're sponsoring a video, I have been using Future for nearly 3 years, over 430 amazing workouts, and I just used it this morning. Can't you tell? Now, for our subscribers specifically, we've negotiated your first month absolutely free of charge. So if you'd like to start using Future, just like me, click the link below the like button and you can join. Okay, so first let's talk about what to look for. And I'm gonna run through this quick. Again, if you'd like to see any more detail on this, you can check the link below the like button. These are the things that I was looking for to compare and are reasons why I picked different models. First is deck length. First of all, stride length is not just determined upon how tall you are. So don't think I'm 6'3", I need a really long deck. No, it's dependent on stride length. Some people really gallop, some people have short, but the deck length does matter. Second is display. You want something that's easy to follow and has the metrics that you actually want to track, and you want it to be easy to read. Third is noise levels. Where are you going to be using this? How loud is it going to be? Most of you are going to be using it in your home. Some in the garage, some inside your home. Some of you will be using it before your kids are even awake. So you want to make sure that it's quiet enough that you can use it in that environment, but also produces enough power so you can get going fast. Fourth is the power and the motor. We have some on here that are non-motorized, so they don't need to be plugged in, but many of them are motorized, which means they're using a motor inside to propel the belt. Anytime you add a motor to something, it adds complexity and therefore adds maintenance. But the bigger the motor, oftentimes the faster the belt will go, and often the higher and lower the incline will be. Fifth is the technology options. Man, treadmills today have so much technology packed into them. Most people today that are using a treadmill are using programming, heart rate monitors, all those sorts of things. So we track those, and there are many different options that are involved in these treadmills, and you kind of just have to decide, do you want the deluxe version with all the options, or do you want something more minimalistic? Sixth is warranty. These things break. Just the reality. One thing I noticed is some of these companies only offer warranties in climate-controlled spaces. Meaning, if you're using this in a garage gym, you could void your warranty. I'll call that out for some of these different companies, but it was something we found in the fine print that honestly, I would love to see people talk about more. Seventh is conveniences. You're gonna be on this treadmill and you're gonna be on it quite a bit. If you're walking, running, you wanna make sure you have cup holders. Some of these have fans, some have sound design built in. Oftentimes they have big LCD screens or LED screens, all that stuff. Those are conveniences that matter and that we walk through. Eighth is cushioning on the deck. How comfortable is it gonna be? And also how much weight the deck can hold. If you're a very heavy person trying to lose weight, treadmill is a great way to do it. However, some of these treadmills can't handle that much weight. Next is incline and decline options. Many of these will have automatic incline and decline options based upon the programming that you're following. The higher the incline, the more options you have, the more decline you have, the more options you have. But generally the sweet spot is a 15% incline. And then lastly is your speed ranges. Oftentimes what we see is the gold standard is 12 miles an hour. Some of these treadmills have peak speeds of only 9.9 miles per hour, which ends up being about a 6-minute and 4-second mile pace. So if you run faster than that and you're really a runner, you're definitely gonna need a higher speed than 9.9 or 10 miles per hour. Okay, there's some of the things that we look for, some of the specs that we're comparing. Now let's get into the picks. First off, I'm gonna start with the best for most people, and this is how I define most people. If somebody was come to me, I know nothing about them, they're just like, what's the treadmill that you would recommend for most people out on the street? This would be the option. Now, before you decide upon any of these, many of these, we negotiate specific coupon codes and discounts for people that visit our site. So I would suggest checking the site first. Truly, oftentimes, especially with treadmills, we have discounts on the website. So my top pick for most people, for most budgets, is the NordicTrack Commercial 1750. I have a few caveats. First of all, this is called a commercial unit. I want to be clear, this is not a unit that you would find in a commercial gym. That doesn't mean it's not good, that doesn't mean it's not durable. It's just commercial units are oftentimes $10,000 plus. You won't find them in most like high-use Planet Fitness gyms, but you might find them in some like boutique gyms or smaller gyms, and they'll have some features that you find in commercial units. The NordicTrack Commercial 1750 has a lot of features that we see from very high-end options, also some really good durability features that you see in high-end options, but it's offered, I think, a really high value price. If I were to guess, this is NordicTrack's best-selling treadmill, and I would guess it's one of the best-selling treadmills and most popular treadmills for home gyms. Here's what makes it good for most people is it's middle of the road and meets many of the standards we look to set for most of these treadmills. I have a spreadsheet in front of me with just like a myriad of treadmills I'm running through with all the specs during this video, and it truly sits in the middle of a lot of the options, borrowing some from the higher end. For instance, the Commercial 1750 hits what I call the gold standard for metrics that matter. These are the metrics that most people care about and that you should first look at. One is speed. You know, really most people are not sprinting on treadmills, these type of treadmills, but you may want to get that fast, and so meeting that I think matters at this price point. Also, a 15% incline matters. That's kind of the gold standard that we see. We actually have some here that we're going to recommend later on that go up to 40% incline. But this one also offers a decline of a negative 3% grade. So that's really nice because much of the programming they're using for NordicTrack is through iFit. And iFit, honestly, out of the options, is one of the best programming solutions that's built in. I'm gonna talk about Peloton Tread in a while. That's kind of really the one that most people look to, but iFit overall, for the price, is pretty compelling. They have some pretty cool stuff that will automatically adjust the incline and decline of the treadmill based upon where you're at. So there's some that you're like walking in different parts of the country where you're just looking at that so you can take your mind off actually doing the work and be focused on what's in front of you, and it will adjust the incline and decline to what would actually be at that location. It's pretty cool. The NordicTrack Commercial 1750 meets a lot of the standards you would see, both in how much space it takes up, how fast it goes, the incline decline. Also, it's a foldable treadmill. That's kind of standard on most of these options, and it's foldable with a safety lock mechanism. I think that matters to call out because there are some options that we tested that don't have that, and if you have kids, I feel like that's just an imperative. But one thing to call out on this treadmill specifically, as this is an honest review, is all NordicTrack and Proform treadmills, they have a caveat with their warranty that if it's not used or stored in a climate-controlled space, it voids the warranty. This means if you use this in a garage, it voids the warranty. I think that's kind of ridiculous because I don't think it's going to greatly affect the unit. I also think a lot of people are using these in their garage gym, so I would love to see that changed, but just want you to be aware, if you plan on putting it in that place, you could void the warranty, which is why I have another option that I see as like secondary or another one to look at for this category, and that's the Soul F63. Soul is, again, making a lot of treadmills similar to NordicTrack. They're kind of cool, futuristic looking treadmills. They're some of the most popular that are on the market. The F63 hits a lower price point than what the Commercial 1750 does from NordicTrack. It's not quite as good, not as quite as feature rich. I wouldn't recommend it quite as much, but it doesn't have the problem with the warranty where it's voided if you use it in a garage. So that's the option I recommend for most people if you're gonna use this in your garage. Let's get into more of the specific categories based on budget, max spend, all that sort of stuff. Let's do it. Now, another thing to call out with these in the price is the programming. You have to pay a programming cost to get the programming. They don't lock the treadmills, you can still use them without them, but many people are using them because they offer the interactive programming. So NordicTrack, for instance, uses iFit, and it's typically about $39 a month. Sometimes they have discounts, sometimes you can buy in bulk, and it's something that you can use on multiple products from NordicTrack. Soul does not really have built-in programming like NordicTrack. They're technologically rich in some areas, but this is one where they just fall behind against some of the bigger companies. And so they do have an iPad mount on the F63 and many of their others that you can use along with their app, but it's not as good as iFit. The studio's not as good. It's just not the same level of quality we're used to seeing from Pelotons and some of the competitors. Next, I'm gonna talk about the best budget options. And I've got 3 options for the best budget, and then I have like ultra budget. The way I'm defining budget is around $1,000. A little bit less than $1,000, maybe a little bit more than $1,000. It's right within that realm. I gotta be careful with this because you can get a good treadmill at this price point, but you are leaving off some features and there are some possible durability questions on some of these. For instance, the Commercial 1750 from NordicTrack, it has a 3.5 horsepower motor. That's a pretty big motor for some of these options that we're gonna be going through. Many of these cheaper ones have a much smaller motor, and they also have lower weight capacity, cushioning could be less, also not as much programming options, but you just have to think through some of those specs. But you know that by spending less, you're giving up other things. This is a product category, I just wanna say generally that you should probably spend more because it's something that you don't want to deal with maintenance-wise, and it's something that can be kind of expensive to fix. So I'm gonna go through some of those more expensive options in a moment, but right now, for budget, the one that I think for a lot of people under $1,000 that I'd recommend is the Pacer Life Pro at really around $750. So this one is actually a pretty affordable treadmill when you compare all the options. Now this is not the treadmill I'd recommend for people that are running and running fast. The max speed on this is 9.9 miles per hour, which as I said previously is about a 6-minute pace in the mile, which I don't see a lot of people running that fast on a treadmill at this price point, but if you are, then you may want to look at other options, and if you're looking to sprint on it. But it does have great incline options at a 12% incline. It's also a little bit lighter at 220 pounds. Some of these behemoths get up to 400 pounds, which can just be really hard to move around. This one is more of a minimalistic style treadmill. It has some features, heart rate monitors, that sort of thing, but overall, I think this is a treadmill that comes with a good motor, good speed, good incline options, and just a good middle of the road budget option. If you're looking to spend a little bit more, another option I'd look at is the Nautilus T618. We've seen it as high as $1,500, as low as $900. So this is a good price point, but I would be looking to spend under $1,000 if you're researching this. Often around holidays, they'll have codes and sales on our site that you can check out. This treadmill is actually quite heavy at 253 pounds and also has a motor similar to the horsepower that we see on our more top picks at 3.5 horsepower. So if you're over 300 pounds, you really need to be looking at the weight capacity on some of these, because some of them, like, they won't handle more than that, and if you put more than that, they're gonna void the warranty. This one specifically has a higher weight capacity at 350 pounds. This one also has a max 12 miles per hour speed and has a 15% incline grade. So honestly, for the price, at the budget option, this one is very attractive. It's just you gotta decide if you want those features and need those features to spend a little bit more than the other budget option. Now, if you are really worried about the durability, longevity of the product on some of these treadmills, which I think can be understandable at these price points, there is an option at around $1,000 from Horizon called the 7.0 AT. This one does offer similar speed and incline options of upwards of 12 miles per hour and 15% grade, as well as a 7-inch LCD screen. Again, this isn't gonna have the programming of some of the bigger companies. You also have to tack on the shipping price, which this one you do have to pay for shipping. It's $100, where many of these options are just built into the cost. So overall, you're gonna pay about $1,100, $1,000 for this treadmill. I don't think it's the best of the budget options. The other two were better options, I think, but it's another one to consider. Now, if you have the combination of hurting for cash and hurting to burn off calories, those options still may be too expensive. So one option that you could look at after looking at some of those fold away options, we do have an option that doesn't fold away. And I think that's really the biggest downgrade on it. Also, it's more of a minimalistic style of head unit and just more of a simple design. It's actually from Reebok, but this one actually surprised me. This is actually Sam's favorite aesthetically pleasing treadmill, and it is kind of cool. They offer it in different colors. It's very simple. It doesn't fold away, which means it's also very sturdy. So if that's not a feature you need, it may be something worth looking into. It is pretty compact, and the head unit is quite simple. It doesn't have a massive screen. You're not really have a place to put your iPad or anything like that. This is really just for people that want a simple treadmill that's going to work. It does have incline. We're not really sure of the grade. It says 15 levels, and we've seen those 15 levels, but it seems a little bit less than 15%, and also goes up slightly under 12 miles per hour. But overall, for around $500, this is a pretty good option if you don't need the fold away. That said, just recognize this treadmill does not have a lot of technology built in. It just doesn't. It's not designed to be a lot of technology. It's very simple, so know that getting into it, especially if you're somebody that really needs motivation from programming. Now let's turn the page and go to a different category of person. This is the person that really wants one of the best home design treadmills. Again, I'm not talking about the commercial oriented Life Fitness, Free Motion, those type of brands within this video. Number one, because they don't really sell to consumers. In fact, you have to call to get prices on a lot of them, which is freaking annoying for any piece of gym equipment. I don't understand it. Also because many of those options are as much as cars. And I don't think a lot of you looking for these are looking for car priced treadmills. But if you are, let me know in the comments and maybe we'll do a video on those higher end options. But if you're looking for one that just has max specs and is honestly a really cool looking treadmill, the Nordic Track Elite treadmill is elite. It's pretty sick. It's got a really cool design. It has a 40% grade incline. That's the biggest incline out of any of these treadmills. That is walking up a very steep hill. Let's say you want to use this for walking backwards, up hills, kind of like you do sled drags, kind of that knees over toes type training. Or let's say you just really like incline walking. Or let's say you like going to the gym and want to use a step mill but don't have the space for it and don't want to spend the money on it. This is kind of an in-between. I really like high incline walking, and this thing is tops for incline. The other thing that's maxed out spec-wise on this is the weight. It's 520 pounds, so just plan on this living there. If you live in a basement, I'm sorry. They do have white glove service that you can pay for, but man, getting that downstairs would be heavy. Also, It has a massive screen. If you're somebody that just needs entertainment while you're trudging along on the treadmill, you will be entertained because this is just a massive screen right in front of you that you can stream any service that you want. You can do walks out in different places, different locales. In addition to that, you can also have programming. So you can use it for iFit programming. This thing is sexy. It also works really good, but it is quite expensive and tops our list at the price range of these motorized treadmills that are made for home use at 4,500 bucks. It's pretty expensive. Now, not nearly as expensive and not as spec heavy on the motor side and some of those features as we see on the commercial, truly commercial options, but I think it's a nice in between. If you're looking to spend something, you like the aesthetic of it, it's gonna sit out, that matters to you, and you also really want that incline and entertainment. It's pretty cool. Now, one thing to call out on the weight, it weighs 520 pounds, but the max weight of it is still only 300 pounds, which I don't really understand. Like, there are people that are trying to lose weight that are over 300 pounds. I understand the capacity for most of these tops out at 350, but I do feel kind of bad for people that are like in a higher weight category that are trying to make good decisions, trying to lose weight. It's honestly hard to find a treadmill that's not a very high-end commercial option that you can actually use, just saying. But 500 pounds, it does not fold up, it's gonna stay there, and it's probably just gonna go with the house if you move. Now for smart treadmills, and I would be remiss to not talk about the one everybody compares to, the Peloton Tread. The Peloton Tread is not at the same level of everything as their Peloton bike. The Peloton Tread is sleek. Like, they understand design, it's beautiful, has a nice big screen, also is somewhat spec heavy, 12.5 miles per hour, 12.5% incline, and also the way you adjust those is with this very nice intuitive knob. Like, they understand design. But this has obviously come under a lot of scrutiny. They have the issues with the lawsuits and the recalls from unfortunate things happening on their treadmills. They've had to rearrange them, redesign them. I will say generally, the programming from Peloton is still the best. I think the programming from Peloton is better still than iFit. It's more expensive. You have to use one option, which is the Tread or the Tread Plus, where NordicTrack has a lot of other options, but it's Peloton, it's good. It just is, it's very good. But is it worth spending $3,500 plus another $45 for the programming versus the other options? I just don't know. When you can get the NordicTrack Commercial 1750 with iFit programming, with a nice screen, with nice incline options. So would I recommend the Peloton Tread? Yes, if you like the status symbol, if you really want their programming, are into their ecosystem with their bike and want them to match, but overall, I do think there are better options. Now, one thing to call out on Peloton is the customer service. Some of these companies send us stuff, some of these we buy. Like, this is true. Some of these we bought, and one that we bought was the Peloton Tread. I have the graveyard of parts of the Peloton Tread right in front of me as well. We have been dealing with customer service issues for over 8 months. Literally, they took the base unit. All I have is the upper unit with the screen. I keep looking over here because it's right here. And we still don't know when we're gonna get it. They said 6 months was gonna be the wait time last time, and we are still, I mean, it's ridiculous that we're waiting on this. NordicTrack, they didn't have all the specs that we wanted on the site. One was that we wanted the specs of the size of it folded up to compare them. And many of the companies don't put that on the site. So Sam called them. The guy went down to the showroom. Sam didn't say it was from Garage Gym Reviews or anything like that, just a general consumer. And the dude measured it for us right there in the showroom, came back and told us. Trying to get help like that from Peloton, we just have not had that experience. On the topic of more expensive treadmills, like the technological ones, the ones that are just really pricey, another one I want to call out is the non-motorized category. I have done a lot of content on this. It's much more of a garage gym type of equipment. So if you'd like to see that, we'll put a link below the like button to those resources. But I'll just say the best I think for most people that is a non-motorized treadmill, a curved treadmill, is going to be the Assault Runner Pro. $3 grand, it is pretty expensive, but it's designed very well. It's very durable. I do like it at the price point better than the Trueform Trainer, which is the comparable option. The Trueform Trainer has some things, specifically the shallow depth of the curve, which I think is nice for posed running. But the Assault Runner, I think it's overall a better build, unless you go up to the higher end options like the Trueform Runner, which is what I have in my garage gym, but it's just over the top and very expensive for most home gym owners. Now, my last category are desk treadmills. You may laugh at that, but I'm telling you, a great way for getting steps in is having a treadmill under your desk. I used a treadmill under my desk last winter all the time, but using these are very nice, and they also have unique features that allow you to fold them up and things like that. I really think that people should be walking more, especially desk workers. And this is a great way to get in those 10,000 plus steps that really you should be getting, but you're not because you're just sitting there. These are also often very cheap. They're not made for running. They're designed to be slim, compact, foldable, and they're also quite cheap oftentimes. My top pick, and the one that I used last winter most often, is the Super Fit treadmill. This one you can buy on Amazon. It's a little bit over 300 bucks. Depending on the sale, it can be less than that actually. It doesn't have high-end features, doesn't have all the tech features, doesn't go super fast. It's stored away, it was compact, it didn't take up a bunch of space, it wasn't really loud and annoying. This met that, and I think for a lot of people trying to get steps, this is a good option to get it at a good price point. Then another one, if you want to spend a little bit more, is the Revo Stroll Light 2-in-1. It's a little bit more expensive. Also, some of these companies, they'll like list the max speed at like 12 miles per hour. These things don't go that fast. They also don't have incline options unless you want to use like these manual incline options. So if you want to get down every time you use it and like lift it up a couple inches, you can do it like that. But just understand, these are for walking on flat ground. Between the two, I would recommend the Super Fit for most people, but the Revo is a little bit nicer, just a little bit better components. And then lastly, honestly, this one is pretty cool. The way it stores, very compact. It's one of the most compact treadmills that's out there. And really it's designed for people that are using it at their desk and then putting it away. This is the Walking Pad R2. It is somewhat expensive at $800. It can be had for less, but when you see some images of this and the way it folds and stores away, it's pretty darn cool. So if you want something that's super compact, that's another option as well. For safety purposes, something to consider, especially if you're gonna be like gifting this to a family member, say somebody that's more senior, you need to consider how safe it is. And many of these walking treadmills, yeah, you're trying to help somebody walk more. They're somewhat unsafe in that they don't have side rails. Oftentimes they'll have a foldable front rail, and that's where you can hold on. But let's just say for my grandma or grandpa, I would not want to give them one of these treadmills. I would want to give them something that's more stable, a little bit more safe, and had side rails. Another thing is oftentimes these have remotes. I don't get the whole remote idea. I don't know why you'd have something that you have to take off and could lose. Just give me a button on the machine that's gonna stay there, and I'm not gonna lose it because I have lost the remote on some of these. Now, the one thing a motorless treadmill is good for is sprinting. And I use mine for sprinting a lot. I don't love sprinting on these ones that are motorized because it just feels kind of weird. It's just a little bit different kind of running. The motorless treadmills feel very natural. You're producing the speed. So as fast as you go, that's how fast it runs, kind of like a hamster wheel. The motorized treadmills are nice for overspeed. So if you can get some of these really high end, like Woodway, they've got some that are made for overspeed that can get up to like 20 miles an hour or so. You can really, one, possibly get hurt, but also you can produce more speed than you may be able to produce on your own just because you kind of have to. It's fight or flight. But if you're gonna be sprinting, I like the motorless treadmills. They work really well for that, and that's what I use. Okay. That's a beast. That is a lot of information. If you've made it this far, thank you for joining us. What I wanted to do for this product category is I wanted to do it justice. I've seen so many reviews on treadmills that are not honest and they're not good. They're not providing details. They're not actually testing the product. They're not bringing them in and comparing them all. It's very hard to do. We have to have an 8,500 square foot facility with tons of treadmills lined up, running all the time to test. It's very hard to make that happen. I hope we've done this subject justice. If you think so, let me know in the comments. If you think I've missed on some areas, I'm critiquing for a living. Feel free to critique me. I want to get better. Let us know in the comments. Thank you for following along. I hope that this, if you're looking for treadmills, this will help you reach your goal with our goal of helping people move more. Thank you for following along. This has been Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, and we will see you next time. Peace.